A week ago, I was in Marathwada in Maharashtra, which has been hit by the worst drought the state especially has ever seen. Till date, 1,027 farmers have committed suicide there, and this is the largest number for that region in recorded history of Marathwada. There is no water. Farming has absolutely disappeared almost. Whatever they grow is not growing because this is the second consecutive drought in a drought-prone region. And from there I was asked to go to a flood-hit area, and that's Chennai. From too little water to way too much. Is India really preparing itself properly? States, are they serious enough to tackle with seriousness the issues regarding water?
To my mind, India's got adequate water. It's the management of water which is critical. And management of water is a function of our ability to manage every drop of water in India. And every drop of water, I mean good rainwater harvesting, our ability to treat every drop of wastewater, our ability to recycle every drop of drainage water, and our ability, to my mind, it's very, very critical. Do in coastal areas desalination of water simply because of evolution of technology. That's on this side. But on the pricing side, to my mind, and I've been a long time believer, we must understand in India that 82% of our water goes into agriculture, and we are providing excessive degree of water into agriculture. And countries across the world, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, they've demonstrated across that you can enhance production, you can enhance productivity in agriculture by doing a much better and much more optimum management of water. And this is happening because we do not know the value of pricing water. We are giving water free of cost to everybody. It's an economic commodity. It must be priced. People must know the value of water.
What would your argument be for either side of the debate?
Well, the tragedy right now is that the poor pay for water at a higher level than those that can afford to pay. So the price for non-delivery is very, very high. And I think that the inequity of it is something that needs to be sorted through. If you look at the equation of water in terms of where, how, and when, and then begin to look at smart grids for water, and I'm delighted to learn that we actually have now more than an experiment, smart grids being put into place in some of the South Delhi colonies, which will show us the way. All that has happened is the efficiency of billing and the ability to understand how that water is delivered and when that water is drawn is enabling us to maintain the price of water, but ensure that the revenues go up. The technologies exist. We have to ensure that we use them for free and fair delivery, which ensures right price, right cost, right delivery. So I would just add here, in an area which is to do with financing, being close to my heart, is the ability to finance projects depends on projects themselves being financeable. How do you create a financeable project? You create it by proper architecture, ensuring that the off-taker, which is often the municipality itself, is a financeable solution, and hence the PPP models, the ability to get the private sector in become very important to ensure that we can finance for all of these solutions which are staring us in the face and which we have to adopt, adapt, and use to our best
that
ability.
private player, one of them, of course, is Mr. Lakhani. So tell us your experience. Are people willing to pay? Are they willing to pay only this much? What do they want as far as quality is concerned, and what have your experiences on the ground been in Nagpur?
Point is, we need technology. We have only hardly 4% metering in our country. So unless we meter it, we really don't know where this water is going. We have like 50% plus non-revenue water, as we call it, that water which is not traced. We have put it into the system, it is not billed, it doesn't come back as a revenue. So 50% plus non-revenue water, the main, to add to it 4% metering and low tariffs. creates a negative cycle. You know, to break this, we need, in Nagpur, it's a 2.7 million population city. It's the whole city 24/7 water program we are running now for 3.5 years. The aim is to rehabilitate, to invest money. You need a capex to rehabilitate the system, to meter it 100%, and also have an O&M component of 25 years. So there is a skin in the game and accountability. See, in Nagpur, the tariff and fees are delinked. So you see, tariff is a socio-political issue. It needs to be decided by the elected people, you know. But the fees being separate is a continuous process, and it's a performance-based contract. I would like to share with you that the economically weaker section, we found that 85% of them are paying without follow. We were surprised. But when we checked it, we came to know that husband and wife both work. Earlier, they were spending half a day on the public tap. Now that they are adding that much more value to, you know, to their kitty, water bill is peanuts for them. So there is also a revelation. The willingness to pay is there if we provide good services. Maybe willingness to charge is a challenge in many of these places.
Suresh, you had some thoughts on this water pricing. Can people be convinced, that is, and politicians especially, you know, it has to be depoliticized, but ultimately these decisions are politicians take?
There may be a solution which lies within the city. You know, for instance, you know, like Mr. Kant said, you know, rainwater harvesting is a good solution. I'm talking about not rooftop water harvesting, but wetlands in itself. And there are many places in India which are still dependent on wetland system for their water supply. Can we look at hybrid solutions? We need centralized solutions. Can we bring in decentralization as well? Close the loop, integrated urban water management, demand management, water supply side solutions, and, you know, closing the loop in terms of recycling and reuse. Now, where we are lagging behind today is, and that's an area of work for us, is to create that enabling environment. One of the indicators that we may want to look at in terms of smart cities is how much ecological footprint reduction is happening. You know, how much the city has reduced its impact on the rivers or the wetlands.
But let me tell you, what cannot be measured cannot be controlled. It's as simple as that. So for example, we have to look at a smart grid solution even for smart water. And it starts from generation to transmission to distribution. And the good news here is that the cost of these IoT technologies for a project which is, say, 1,000 crores would be just 5 to 7%. So I think it's no rocket science. If you look at the ROI, return of investment, and life cycle analysis of these projects, then India deserves better water solutions, and it can be created. So technology can be used to, you know, provide a sustainable water supply which is cost effective and also user friendly and consumer friendly, because I think that's what India deserves.
Mr. Kant, if the costs are not prohibitive, then the Singapore model, where we have seen they have changed the entire face of Singapore in the last so many years, started desalinating water, also seawater, then what is stopping, you know, our municipalities, for example, you know, and it should be more community oriented, as you are saying.
So, you know, on the water side, you can't have one solution. You know, I mean, Singapore had a challenge, and the challenge was that their water agreement with Malaysia was coming to an end. They were going to have no water. So you were facing this absolute scarcity, and when you face that adversity, you spur innovation. And therefore, they did several things. They had a dual piping system. They said every drop of drainage water will be treated. And they then went in for vast rainwater harvesting. India is very different from Singapore. We are much larger, much bigger. And therefore, you need another approach, to my mind, and which is very critical, that in rural areas, the answer lies in community programs. A huge number of community programs where community owns water resources. Answer just doesn't lie in urban cities, yes. Pipes and fixing your leakages, getting your meters right, using technology to innovate, all that is critical. But in rural areas, community management of water is a very, very important thing.
A bunch of us have come behind forming the India Sanitation Coalition, which has civil society, it has corporates, and it has donor agencies, multilaterals, all players coming together onto a same platform, so that there can be common knowledge, common sharing, and common policy making. And I think we have lacked this, and therefore we get into situations where people come up against each other because understanding of each other's perspectives isn't there. And back to price of water, if the engagement and understanding is there, whether it is in sanitation or in supply of water, we need more forums such as this, where we can document best practice, we can disseminate best practice, and we can agree what is best practice.
Rishabh, since you're into wastewater management, what sort of technology have you brought in?
What we propose and what we are doing is having open technology, limiting the amount of land use, and making sure we are getting recyclable water in different parts. And we are doing similar projects in Mira Bhayandar, in Kanpur, where we're actually implementing these kind of solutions.
Anamika, to make this on a much larger scale, you would need funding, as Ms. Kidwai also was saying. And is that something I'm sure many companies are willing to put in, but as Mr. Lakhani also was saying, putting into a municipality perhaps may not want to be the best investment a private player may want to do.
Somewhere the private players should be given the right of way to just move forward with the do's and don'ts, and just execute the projects, because what happens, the fund is available, the technology available, the people are lined up, but unfortunately we are not able to move forward. And that, I'm sure what Ms. Kidwai was trying to tell us was very pertinent, that this is actually a loss to the future of India, because the fund is lying, everything is in plan, we're just not able to provide water to the consumer. And I can give you a real example. It's Dahej in India, and we are really struggling to get the projects moving by PPP agreements.
Suresh, a policy can be made, but the key is in its implementation. But the implementation of all these policies is a huge challenge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have some of the strongest of laws, and we fail in implementation, because I think the people who have to sort of adhere to that, they are not engaged in policy formulation, one, and they don't feel the ownership of these regulations. There are umpteen number of cases in India where people have themselves resorted to self-regulation of groundwater. There are cases in Maharashtra, cases in Andhra Pradesh. What is working there and what is not working in a centralized law, we need to understand that.
Where we have failed in the issue of water is, which was very rightly said here, was that water is very much a people's issue, and therefore you need to play a very major critical role of extension and mass communication and bringing people on board. People are willing to pay the price in case they are able to get good quality water 24/7. Anybody will be willing to pay the price of water rather than not get water at all.
Many places, like a huge city like Delhi, already technology enablement for billing, endpoint consumers, everything is there. And worldwide also you see there is a single point billing and supplier for water, power and gas. I think we need to look at some of those things where already so many enablements are there and make a good start from there. Panel can give their view on that.
You raise a very important point, and that is how siloed we are in our approach to provision of utilities. In fact, we were just discussing before we came on the panel that even in the area of water, the whole area of sewage disposal and supply of water may sit in two different departments in the same space, but are managed independently. So treated water, which can be used within, as we've seen in some examples, whether it's for agriculture or gardens or car washing, in some cities like Bombay goes back into the sea. So we could absolutely, in the first instance, connect up these two silos of water, treated water being reused, being a classic case. And then if we can take it to exactly what you say, where the consumer is in fact mapped.
You're already measuring water, and geospatial information system is the IT backbone which we talked about. So if you dovetail it with energy, you dovetail it with gas consumption and also your network consumption, then you can have a multi-utility solution at a one point where you are billing it together, you're controlling the consumer interaction of quality and expectations and outages, and very important, you're also ensuring that you know exactly what is the delivery consumption pattern of a customer. So then you can go to the next level of providing quality of time of the day services, where you can reduce the bills, which normally is adopted. So technology is there. So sir, maybe that is what another angle we can add to it.
And on the question of breaking this silo of drinking water and sewage, like in Nagpur again, we are doing a 200 MLD sewage treatment plant on a PPP 100% privately financed basis, where the water will be sold to thermal power station, and the reservation of thermal power station of 200 MLD will go back to the city as drinking water. So these need to be done to make a positive cycle. Although the challenge is there that municipalities don't have money.
Let us as Indians first understand that we have a responsibility for people living below the poverty line. But people like Ms. Naina Kidwai or Mr. Amitabh Kant should pay for water. If you want efficiency in the system, let us learn, Indians first of all must learn that we should not be populist. If efficiencies have to be brought into the system, we must care for people below a certain poverty line. But a vast number of Indians have the capacity and capability to pay. You can say that for human consumption, water is made available at very subsidized or free rates. But why should industry not pay? I am Secretary Industries and I say that every industry must pay for water.
If those who can afford pay, can the person down there get treated water, can get better water, can get better supply of water? That's why the payment is required.
Yeah, the key is that we need to meter it so that 135 liter per day per person, the basic lifeline water, we can supply at a very, very concessional rate or even free. But then someone who is washing his car with that water should pay for it. There should be this telescopic tariff and metering are the two key things to make people aware about water, like it has happened in electricity.
Why has this then not worked in several countries abroad, where a recent report has said that at least 180 cases, examples of how water has been privatized, but ultimately they had to send it back to the municipality to handle it. So why has that happened? Anybody can take it up.
I will say it has not failed. You see, if in today's condition in India, when we have 50% NRW, once the private person comes in, you have a mandate to bring it to 15% in say whatever 10 years. After 25 years, when you have all the technology, the SCADA system, the leak detection system, everything in place, it is like controlling it from a control room. You can see the whole map of the city like it is in the developed countries. After that, you don't need private player to continue doing it. Any municipality can take it back and run it themselves. It's a question of transformation.
Just to add to Mr. Lakhani on this remunicipalization, what you spoke about earlier, what is happening across the world and what we can learn from that in India is the quality of concession agreements or quality of agreements that are signed between the municipality and the private player. We have seen enough in India and we have seen a lot of globally as well. There are certain things if we can take the best out of. The private player will have the right incentives, the government will have the right incentives to make sure adequate, good service is provided to the people. And this we are seeing now, for example, the Delhi work we are doing, similarly in Karnataka and even I'm assuming Nagpur is a good concession agreement, where a lot of good things from across the world as well as India, the learnings, have been put in to make sure the private player is successful in implementing the service that is required of them.
Well, it's great that the debate on whether water we should pay for it or not has begun here at least, but it has to begin nationally and someday implemented across the country. But what isn't debatable, of course, is that technology, innovative technology, is required so that every drop of water is really, really saved. Thank you, and thanks for watching.